Lord, when we see it without all capitals, it means exactly that, Lord. The Hebrew word is Adonai. This word can also mean master. It's the exact same idea, though, so you would translate it slightly differently depending on the context, okay? Now, when we see all capitals Lord in the Bible, it's when God's proper personal name, Yahweh, is being used in the original text. So this was written as YHWH when it's translated into our alphabet. So the Hebrew does not have vowels that are equivalent for us, so there's only consonants that are being used. And this is going to matter later, so just kind of let that stick in your brain. As best we can tell from looking back at old manuscripts, the Jews began using Adonai, which again simply means Lord, in place of Yahweh, most probably between 400 and 300 BC, so well before, hundreds of years before Jesus came on the scene. Some argue as early as the late 500s BC, but regardless, again, it's well before Jesus comes on the scene. Are they using Lord when they come to Yahweh in the text? So the reason that the Jews did this is because they didn't want to misuse God's name.
At the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow. At the name of Jesus, every tongue confess.
So this more than likely can be traced back to Exodus 20 and verse 7, which says, "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord," all capitals. You shall not misuse the name of Yahweh your God, for the Lord, all capitals, will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. So they took the use of God's name very, very seriously. They wanted to be reverent. They wanted to be respectful. So when they're reading through the text and they come to Yahweh, they would just say Adonai or Lord instead. Okay? Now, sometime in the mid-200s BC, so 100, 200, maybe a little bit more years after this, Alexander the Great has come along and has taken over the land, and he makes the Greek language the language of the land. Okay, so most people are speaking Greek at this time. And this language, or the Greek language, was... I'm sorry, let me take that back. Alexander made Greek the official language, and then they began translating the Hebrew text into Greek. So this is what we call the Septuagint or the LXX. So if you see that anywhere, that's what they're referring to. It's the Greek translation of the Hebrew text. And so the translators at that time, they followed the tradition of using Adonai when Yahweh is in the original. And so what this led to was, if you're looking at the Greek text, both Yahweh and any time it would actually say Lord, they're translated using the exact same word in the Greek. So there's nothing to flag you that Yahweh was in the original, and that's going to matter. So by the time Jesus and the writers of the New Testament come around, we had this Greek translation of the Old Testament, the Septuagint, that was in use. And the writers would often use these Greek versions of the text when they're quoting in the New Testament. And so we're going to come back to this. Now, if we jump forward in time several hundred years after Jesus, we find that a new group of scribes has come along. And what they did was they combined the consonants of Yahweh and the vowels of Adonai. And they created this new hybrid word, YHWH, is how you would pronounce it. Now, this was not actually read. Rather, what it did for those who were reading it was a visual cue for them to know that Yahweh was in the original text, but don't say it, say Lord instead. So the same idea is going on. And so this YHWH, this was the root of what would later become the word Jehovah, that many of us would be familiar with. So this part about Jehovah doesn't affect our study today, but it's been asked a couple of times as we've dealt with Yahweh and Lord after class, and so I figured if we're going to be addressing one part of it, we might as well address all of it at one time.
In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me.
Hi. Suicide rates are rising rapidly, so most Jesus followers should prepare ourselves for a more active role in preventing suicides. We are on the front line since pros rarely get involved until a foot soldier helps connect people in crisis with trained professionals. E94.org is a Christian ministry dedicated to equipping the church to prevent suicide through free training of foot soldiers to prevent suicide through training, consulting, and resources. Get equipped to give hope and help and confidently refer people to professional counselors. Learn more at e94.org. Thank you.